Hey everybody, this is Fixes Designs. We are going to start maybe not necessarily a weekly vlog on doing a certain item that I may or may not be looking at right now. This is the Rhino. When I had completed my Canic Hurricane, aka the Rolling Thunder, God, it's been almost 2 years now. At the end of that, very end of that video, it was right around Christmas time. At the very end of that video, I talked about doing one of these in an RC, maybe on an RC platform. Still not very keen on the RC part. I have a couple of hang-ups about it. One, there's really, even as big as what it is, there's not a lot of room to put RC components in here once you model everything up and make room for who all's in here. Just to be able to make the wheels turn in here is going to take out a lot of room at the very top, and you'll lose that where you're putting the copter at and stuff like that. So this will just be an upscale with my own little bit a few twists on it. I will probably stay pretty true to the platform though. It's just too classic. Two aliens. This is probably one of the few vehicles that G.I. Joe completely hit it out of the park on. So I've been enamored with the Rhino ever since they first originally released it. And of course, I had to pick me one up, even though I really didn't collect 3.5-inch Joes at that time. I think it was like what, early 2000s, something like that, mid 2000s. 2010s, somewhere in there. I'm not even sure. But I've always loved this vehicle. So I knew when Classified came out after doing the Rolling Thunder, I knew that I really wanted to do this platform. Now, what's going to be the difficult part for me is I don't do resin printing, so that means that I will not be able to do a clear canopy very well. I'm going to do my best because I do have a laser. And so therefore I can do acrylics, laser cutting. So more than likely what's going to happen is I'm going to try and find a way to make that canopy work with acrylic cut pieces. Try my hardest anyways. I'm getting excited about doing this. This is going to be a fun little endeavor here. Especially trying to make this thing work with the, I don't remember how this thing even does work. I know there's a button that flips this thing all the way up, but give me just a second, I'm going to find that. So I did hit it earlier, but it didn't do anything because I guess it's just been down for so long. Let's see if I can hit it again. So yeah, that's probably going to be the most difficult part to figure out. I'm assuming there's a pretty heavy-duty spring in there to be able to lift that up. Compression and lock is probably not going to be an issue figuring out. Just the height of that thing and trying to compress that spring all the way. Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure out the mechanics of it. Shouldn't be that difficult. Shouldn't be above my level. But yeah, so that's what we're going to start working on. I've already got a few of the CAD details worked out, how big this thing's going to be. I think from end to end, it's going to end up being like almost 23 inches long once it's upscaled. But that's before I put actual figures with it. So that's assuming, I was taking into consideration how tall the 3.5-inch figure was compared to this doorway. So I really actually didn't get the correct dimensions in. So that's what we're going to work on today. Seeing how big this thing does need to be. Yeah, so we're going to move up to my computer CAD station where I've got SolidWorks and start doing the initial findings on this thing. So stay tuned. Okay, so I kind of had to go to a couple different websites. I'm using Bing here. Never used Bing. Chrome is my actual browser, so it took me a couple of hits to find the right website. I already had something pulled up in my Chrome, but I didn't want everybody to see all my links and everything, so I ended up pulling up Bing. And 3D Joe's was the wrong hit as well. I did not realize 3D Joe's did not have the Rhino. But anyways, I finally got to the appropriate website to pull up the Rhino. So basically all I'm going to be looking for here is a side view. Just grabbing the side view, copying it, or copying the screen, putting it in a paintbrush, cropping it, just so I can be able to pull these different views into my AutoCAD. So this is going to be just, a quick few minutes on trying to get all that stuff put in. So there's a side view, save it as, all this stuff's going to be blacked out so you don't see what I have. Gotta be secret, man. So I'm done with the side view, and then I'm fixing to go to a top view. And then copying that and then pasting it into Paintbrush as well. And the reason why I'm doing this is just going to be easier to scale things. I'm going to be drawing the outline of this just so I can get an idea of how big things are going to be. And here I'm kind of looking through other views and see if any of them are really going to make a difference, and ultimately they do not. Really just needed the side view and the top view. Because I literally have the toy sitting here right here beside me, so any other major stuff I can just kind of look at the toy. This is just going to be a quick and dirty method on getting dimensions and scaling it up as I need to scale it up at around 6.5 inch figures. So okay, so we got AutoCAD pulled up. We're going to bring some pictures in. And since the pictures really aren't to scale, we're not going to worry about scaling them just yet to anything. We're just going to go ahead and do the outlining that needs to be done. So for this section, I'm probably going to maybe speed it up because it takes me quite a few minutes to get the outlining done on this. We'll see how long it takes. Here I'm putting a fade into the white background just so it's easier for me to see the line work that I'm doing. Setting a layer color. And I understand that whenever you're taking pictures of toys and stuff like this, you're not dead on looking at things. So this will just give you an ultimate, 30,000 altitude outlook, or I can't remember the exact term for it. It gives you the big picture, and that's all we're really doing here, just kind of doing the big picture work, seeing where everything sits. So we're not going for precision here. Definitely know that there's going to be some differences in what a camera can produce versus what the actual toy is measuring. So this is just kind of giving us a, roundabout stuff, if I make any sense at all. By the way, this is my first time doing an audio. I actually did this video like 4 or 5 days ago, so I ultimately knew that I was going to be doing a audio overlay. So I'm just kind of going, this is me watching the video for the first time since I made this video. So I'm just kind of seeing myself work now, what I did, 4 or 5 days ago. So this is the first for me figuring out. Luckily, I had a mic stashed away somewhere that I had purchased to be able to do recording, but I never really thought about using it for my computer. Normally it's hooked up to this specific mic was hooked up to my phone for the longest time whenever I was doing videos originally for my YouTube channel. But I did not realize that it would work for my computer as well, so I finally got that set up for this. I know, just listening to my voice, I probably need to dial some stuff in. Right now I've got some echo in it. I'm going to see if I can, dial some of that out when it's finally done. So you're going to kind of hear me ramble about weird stuff while this is going on. So I'm actually making pretty quick work of this. So I got the tires done, which is important because I kind of need to know how big the tires need to be. The tires are going to be the first thing that we're going to model up. It's just going to be easier to figure out, track length and track width of the toy. That way we can start doing the major blocking work for the rest of the vehicle. So it's just typically easier just to go based off the tires, get the tires set to where you want them to be. Because, once you get the body done, you're stuck. If you need to lengthen the track width, half of an inch or an inch, you're kind of screwed once you've done all that body work. So it'll be easier just to go ahead and set the width and the depth of the tires first. That way we kind of know what space we're looking at for putting the figures in there, how big the copter is going to be, how much room we're going to have inside. We're going to be going through all that here once I get through with this video. So this portion of the video, we're going to be going live, fellas, live. All right, so I got the side view done. Now it's time to do the top view. We're going to, again, change the fade in for the white background of this just so I can be able to see where I'm drawing at. Now, a lot of these dimensions are going to change. Again, we're dealing with injected molded plastic, so you can get away with much thinner walls on a lot of your stuff here. 3D printing, you don't really want to do a lot of really thin walls because it takes away whatever you're working on is not going to be as structurally tough. We're going to want to put a lot of walls. You just want things thicker as far as 3D printing goes. So I like the windscreen on the copter. You're barely talking about barely a millimeter thick, for the thickness of the windscreen. And we're definitely going to have it thicker because my acrylic is a millimeter thick. So the canopy itself is probably going to have to be 2 mils thick, 2 to 3 mils thick, just so I can be able to print mounting points for the for the acrylic pieces to get it mount into. And here you can actually tell how the camera was off whenever it was photographing the toy. I was trying to make it straight from center to the front vehicle to the center of the back, and it just kind of curved it just a little bit, just because that's how cameras work. It's not a flat screen. There, got a little bit of a concave or roundness to them, so everything's going to be curved a little bit. So I did the best that I could to put it in the middle, because I'm not going to be drawn all the way around this thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a center point, what I believe is the center point of the vehicle, and do all the outline work on the top half and then just mirror it on the bottom half. And theoretically it shouldn't be that far off, but with camera work it does get a little bit off because you're not always exact on cameras. But again, this is the 30,000 foot view. We're just trying to get us placed in a good spot versus, yeah. Yeah, doing this copper is going to be interesting. Okay, and then we're going to trim everything up. And then just going to mirror everything that I did up there into the bottom. Now, for those that are asking, this is AutoCAD 2010, so you can see there, it's a little bit off, but I mean, that's just going to be the way the camera's actually working. You're actually seeing more of the bottom tire than the top, so this camera's tilted down just a little bit, so this is good enough for what we need it for. So now we're just going to delete the pictures. We're going to rotate this piece, move it in line with the bottom one, and then we're going to start working on scaling everything up to where they need to be. And here we're not going to be going off the tires, we're going to be going off the body, because that's what we were drawing the lines off of, was the body. Kind of putting everything in a window here, just so it's easier to scale things. Now we're going to scale this thing up. Start from the edge. Close enough for poor folk. Now we need to figure out what this thing is scaled at. So we know a G.I. Joe figure is typically measuring at around 3.5 inches. And we know pretty much the biggest classified G.I. Joe figure is 6.5 inches. I mean, not the biggest. I mean, I think Roadblock is like, Roadblock and the Bats are between 6.25 and 6.5 inches. 6'5". So what we're going to do here is we're just going to draw the little stick figure, showing how big 6.5 inches is. And this is what we're going to be figuring out today. We're going to be putting a 3.5 inch figure in front of the doorway on the Rhino to see whereabouts a 3.5 inch figure will fit. You know, does it sit tall in that doorway, or does he got to scrunch down? Those are the things that we're going to be figuring out today. And then we're going to be getting the wheels initially drawn up today. That'll be our first starting point of this whole project. And then we'll continue on with the rest of the stuff for future videos. Just because this stuff does kind of take time to do. And he's walking like an Egyptian. And don't ask about this part. I don't know what I was doing here. It is Roadblock. I'm definitely putting way too much time in drawing a stick figure, though, especially when I have these things already drawn up and to be able to test stuff. So, as you can kind of see, it's already kind of scaled. You know, there's not a whole lot of scaling I need to do to it as far as visually looking at it. If this is a 6.5 inch figure, but I don't think the Rhino is this big. Again, we're going to figure all that out here in a few minutes once I get through drawing this thing up. And for the life of me, I can't get my linear dimension to work on me. It keeps on trying to do an aligned dimension, which I hate aligned dimensions. There we go. So that's 6.5 inches. So this is 22, I believe, 24 inches. So it's going to be a pretty big dude. And it may have to be bigger because classified figures are wide. They're not like the old 3.5 inch toys where there's not a whole lot to them. They got some wide butts and big shoulders. And okay, so this is where the fun part's going to come in. We're going to kind of... what am I looking at? It's like, hello, Dragonfly. How are you doing? A little quick sweep of the top shelf here. This is my stand that I'm selling for the Skyhawk. Of course, my watchtower. And then my flat cannon that I sell. The MMS I used to sell, but now that G.I. Joe is making them, I ain't got to make it anymore. Actually, I'm probably going to release the files on that to sell outright for other people to be able to make since I don't make them anymore. And of course the Dragonfly. And my aftermarket, that's just my adapters for RC wheels. But that's not why we're in here. So we're going to get kind of... I don't want to use the tallest figure because as far as being inside the Rhino goes, I don't think people are going to be putting their roadblocks and stuff like that on the inside. So 6.5 inches may be a little bit too big to be putting in them. That's what she said. We're going to go with probably the mid-size figures to be able, the troops. These guys right here, the ones that are going to be the cannon fodder. So we're going to pick a mid-size figure to be able to model the whole thing off of as far as the inside goes. But as far as like the driver's platforms, probably still needs to be mid-size figures. I can't think of any reason why the bigger figures need to be driving anything because they're usually the gunners, the dudes taking the dudes being the meat shields. So yeah, I think that's probably where we're going to be at. I think probably a good figure to model that off of. I mean, Xandar, he would work. Another option would be is that Ripper? Yeah, I think it's Ripper. Man, it's been a while since I've had to name the Dreadnoks. But he would actually work too, because he's just a little bit taller than him. And even with him being on the blocks, he's about the same height as Barbecue. So let me see that real quick. Plus, I don't have any of his stuff on him. Yeah, they're about the same height. So we're going to model this off of Ripper. A good slender type dude, but just tall enough, because I think he's probably about the same height as the bats. Let's see here. Let's get a bat standing up. By the way, what you're seeing here, this is my warehouse dio. It's probably all fixing to go bye-bye because the Rattler's on his way. So, oh wow, he is actually taller than the bat. So that's good. I didn't realize he was that tall. So we're going to do all the modeling off of, I hope I'm saying the right name, Ripper. So we're going to do all the modeling off of him. He seems like a good roundabout figure to be able to do that off of. Oh, my mind's not like it used to be, guys. I'm sorry. Any other time I'd remembered it. It's kind of like the whole thrust dirge and crap, I forgot the other dude's name already. So it's the same thing where you just kind of, any other time you'd remember stuff, but when you're put on the spot, you kind of forget names. It happens when you turn 50. Okay, so this is going to be our kind of measuring station here on top of my laser that's not being used. We've actually got the driver here. Wow, this thing's going to be huge. All right, so the only thing I don't have down here is my tape measure. But I do have calipers, so it'll get us pretty close. You know, I'm trying to find a way to stand this guy up. Actually, let's move him out of the way. Okay, so let's see here. So when they're standing up next to this thing, they are, and that's about how tall it is. So he comes up to just above the window, which makes sense. So when they're inside this thing, come on. Yeah. Which makes sense because they're inside this thing. Oh, you guys can't even see anything. So, oh, all right. So they come just about shoulder level to the door, to the top of the door. So what I'm probably going to do is, since they're already that tall, you guys don't know what I'm looking at. I hate that that thing moves like that. Since they're already that tall, I may as well as make it to where it's head height for that size figure. So yeah. And I'm trying to remember what all's in here actually. I can't really see it. Not a whole lot because that copter's in the way. So a lot of dead space there. And so for those complaining, yeah, there's a lot of dead space. You can put electronics in there to make it RC. No, I'm not going to do it. I don't have enough familiarity with RC stuff. I played with it for a little bit, you know, when I was in my 20s. Had a couple pretty cool RC toys, but I'm just not well versed in much of RC these days. Okay, so these things will have to be minimum 3 inches wide because figures are themselves around 2.5 inches wide, so we know that. Yeah. Okay, that kind of gives me a pretty good idea on how tall this needs to be. And it's going to, figure pretty much has to go through that door. So we're going to go back and look at this. Okay, so yeah, this is actually something else that I'm working on here for the snake armor. If anybody recognizes it from my last video, it looks like a Fallout power armor stand. So yes, that is what I'm modeling it after. Except this thing's going to be huge. So let me make sure I save this and get out of that. All right, so here's my sketch. All right. And I do believe that this is already scaled up. Actually, it's not scaled anything right now. What I want to do is measure, we're going to put a point here, actually. We're going to measure from the ground to the top here. We want that to be 6.75 inches. Okay. And that will immediately dimension everything else to size. So right now we're looking at around 22 2 inches. So, I mean, that's about fine. The wheels are 5 1/4. Cool. Different sizes, obviously. Maximum height? Yeah, I don't think I modeled the wing before, so about 8 inches. So it's not going to be a tall vehicle. And I'm fine with that. Okay, so, well, let's start with the wheels. This is always the fun part, is just trying to get started. All right. So we're going, I'm kind of trying to figure out how I'm going to do the different ways I'm going to do this video. I think since I already have the dimensions set up, all I need to do from kind of here is to show show the toy of what we're looking at here, versus me getting in here with a set of calipers and eyeballing stuff, because going back and forth between live video footage and screen grabbing what I'm modeling is going to be a little bit difficult. So I just I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. So it may be easier just for me to look at the wheel right over here beside me and just start going to town. So I'm going to save this. This is going to be my baseline, my big sketch, and I'm going to start modeling using this as kind of like a top level assembly. That way, as I'm putting these pieces in, I can see how it's matching up to the overall sketch, which will, yeah, which will be easier. So that's saved. We're going to do, this is, I think, what did I say it was? 5 1/4 and 4.44. So again, we're just going to do the wheels today, and then we're going to wait for the next video for the rest of the stuff, because this is like taking me like half the day right here. Not gonna lie. Okay, what'd I say? This is terrible. 5 1/4. Okay, we're gonna minimize that. We're going to close this. We're going to go to new part. That's not what I want to do. File, new part. We're going to start with a circle on this plane. Normalize it. 5.25. Okay, then we're going to extrude that. I just had a huge mess up. Kind of a technical error here. Oh my goodness, I should probably keep an eye on my screens on what I'm pausing and what I'm recording and whatnot. But apparently, when I was pausing the development of the the rear wheel, I paused it to get to try and figure out something. I don't even know what I was trying to figure out, but I never unpaused it. So this is going to be kind of a learning experience for me to teach you all how to do all this. And this is about probably 45 minutes worth of work right here. You didn't miss a whole lot. I mean, as far as my eyes are concerned. But I'm sure you all probably would have been appreciative of being able to see a lot of what we did. Having said all that, I'm just going to go through the quick steps here of what I did. Previous the video was just kind of going to stop when I was in the middle of extruding this. And I think that is where I was at without the color. What I had done is, when I was trying to get the dimension for the thickness, well, I really wasn't getting it. I forgot to times it by 1.64. So I got the dimension on the thickness and extruded the wheel out. So that's how I got how thick it's supposed to be in the scaled up in the correction. Okay, then I added a cutout. There's a cutout with a little bit of a what's called a draft. So it's a 15-degree draft. So it's angled on the inside a little bit, so you can kind of see how I got there. And then I extruded a hub. Yeah. And then I made a another extrusion. Obviously, I'm basing this off the wheel, so as I'm looking at the wheel of the toy, I'm doing these step by step. So I add an extrusion, then I come in here and add a chamfer to it to try and get the looks of what is on the actual wheel itself. And then I add a chamfer to the outside. This is probably a lot easier if this wasn't black, but nothing I can really do about that. Then I add a bolt hole extrusion. Then I add a couple of nuts. This is so much quicker doing this way, rather than me hem-hawing about showing you what all I'm doing. Then I add a chamfer to this hub. Then I do a circular pattern for these features. And then I do another extrusion. That's going to be a lip with a couple of circles on top of it, and then I put a couple of radiuses on those circles, and then I do a another circular pattern with those features inside as well. Okay, and then I add a rim lip. That's one thing the actual toy is missing. There's like not a whole lot of separation between the tire and the rim. So I'm adding a lip to it. Put a couple of radiuses in it. Put a couple of, or at least put a radius in it as well. Then I put a kind of like a washer extrusion there. And I put a nut extrusion, circular pattern on that. And then another extrusion with a draft. And then I cut the back side out 3/4 of an inch, and then chamfer that and that. Okay, so that's where we were at. There was about 45 minutes worth of footage in there that I just completely did not even record. I promise I'll try and keep an eye on that a little better for the next round of stuff. Okay, so there's that. And then what I did was in my assembly, I added the wheel. So this kind of gets us to where we're going to be for the next video. For the front wheel, all I did, let me open it up real quick. All I did is there is a scale function here. I scaled it down to the size that it needs to be. And then I added the hole and the chamfer in it as well. So then I brought them into the assembly, and that's where we're at. So probably what I need to do is, since I scaled this whole thing down, these wheels are actually the same thickness. So I need to remind myself to extrude this out, the remainders, so that these wheels are both the same thickness. I didn't want to have to redraw everything again between these two, since most of the features are the same. I just need to be sure and not forget to make these both the same thickness. So, but that's really all I'm at today. I'm having to go back and re-edit a lot of this video footage. Again, this is my first time doing all this, so my pain is your gain. I don't know. Because you actually lost a lot of stuff in here. I mean, I was a chatty Cathy for most of that. So, yep. But this is where we're at. I don't think there's any footage after this. So if not, or if there's not, this is Pix's Designs signing out.